Arsenal are about to get scarier. They're doing this again and again and again. It's one of these things for me that for the better part of 2 decades, we laughed at Arsenal, we criticised Arsenal. We always knew no matter how good their team was becoming, their stars would eventually leave. Now, we've seen the new deals for the Salibas, the Gabriels, Odegaards. Now it's the turn of, in my opinion, their best player, maybe, or certainly in the last 20 to 30 years, the best player to come through the academy of Arsenal, and that is a Bukayo Saka. A big update and story here from Sammy McBell that says that Arsenal's efforts to sign Bukayo Saka to a new long-term contract have progressed amid a growing expectation of an agreement being reached. Well-placed sources claim he will become one of Arsenal's best paid players when the new deal is confirmed. And look, I don't think this is coming as shocking news to any Arsenal fan. By the way, like, subscribe, share. But it's certainly coming as frustrating news for me as a Manchester United fan. But just because I'm frustrated, just because I'm annoyed, just because Arsenal over the last 5 years have made my club look stupid, not directly, not that anybody at Arsenal, in terms of growing this squad, purchasing, developing this squad, becoming title contenders, and right now looking like they have the most amazing opportunity of winning their first Premier League title in 2 decades. None of that was directly done to hurt me, my club, Manchester United, but it's looking at the way you operate, the way you behave. As a family man, you sometimes go out and listen. My children are great. My children are really, really good. They're very well behaved. You know, touching wood, it always remains that way. Don't want to tempt fate. But sometimes I go out and I'll see a family and their kids are so obedient and they're tidy. They're not too noisy in maybe a restaurant environment. X, Y, and Z. You look at it and go, oh, if only, right? And listen, some people might have a pop at me for that. But in reality, those parents probably look at things other kids do and go, I wish my kids could do that, or they were better at this. We all sort of do it. None of that is ever meant that we don't love, respect, and adore our children to the fullest, but we always want the very best. We want everyone to think they're the most polite, smartest, loveliest, sportiest kids around. That's kind of it. But the reason I use that as an example is we always look at what other people are doing if they're doing it well, and you want it. Now, the difference is how you learn as you get older to be more mature around it. In my younger years, if I saw an Arsenal, a Chelsea, a Liverpool do something that was good, I would meet it with anger, bitterness, frustration, and I'd always look for the grey, not the silver lining, but the grey lining. How can I make this look worse than it is? And I was like that as a person. I remember a good friend of mine got these really nice speakers for Christmas. So I was only young. I was probably about 11, 12. And I just said the weirdest lie, essentially. Yeah, my dad's given me... My dad used to have these PA systems because he was a singer. My dad's given me the speakers of his PA system, which were just bigger and better than speakers you would buy in a normal shop, because this guy had brilliant speakers. And I just lied. And I lied because I felt like it was one-upmanship. And that's fine when you're a kid. I'm just not going to do that at 39 years of age. I don't have the time or energy. I'll have a little bit of fun and banter here and there, but I'd rather have a serious conversation. And reading this news, it's nothing but painful. It's nothing but frustrating. It's nothing but annoyance. But I do have admiration. And I have a lot of admiration for Arsenal. Yes, you're my biggest... I still see you as my biggest Premier League rival from a competitive standpoint. The rivalry that Arsenal and Man United shared is the greatest I've witnessed in my lifetime as a fan. And depending upon your age and the team you support, you'll have a different version of that. And I think our two clubs made the Premier League. But a little bit like Sir Alex Ferguson and Wenger as they got older, I grew to have an admiration for a club that was well run, did things the right way. By and large, listen, there's loads of things we could all pull out morally about all our clubs. None of us are perfect. I'm not going to stand there in a big glass house throwing stones, but I'm talking more on a footballing level than always a moral one, because I think all of our clubs have had or do have owners that are questionable. So let's park that part of the conversation, because I know people will want to go down that rabbit hole, and I'm not doing it. But I grew in admiration for them. And in the last few years, that's probably grown a little further because I've never seen an onslaught from the mainstream media towards a team doing well like this. I understand the onslaught to United right now. We've been awful. Although I'll defend all their lies in the last week about our manager abandoning his principles. I understood the criticism for Arsenal in the waning years of Arsene Wenger because I was calling them out as well. Go back to my early YouTube content on Fan Park Live about Wenger. The Unai Emery era, I agree, it just wouldn't have worked. I think they would have got worse and worse and worse. And even in the early Arteta days, I didn't personally see what they were building, but I was criticising things that weren't looking right at that particular moment in time. Even last season, I criticised poor recruitment and a lack of consistency and quality. So just because you admire something doesn't mean you won't criticise it on a sporting level. But the reason why I build that all up for you is because I want to reiterate something I've said before, but I want to double down on it. The fact that Arsenal keep renewing the contracts of their best players shows this club's operating in a different way. So whenever I hear people say, well, what's changed at Arsenal? They're still coming second. They're just a top four team. They're not winning the major trophies. How can anybody be worried? How can anybody be scared? How can anybody say anything other than it's going to be same old, same old? And the bit that I find infuriating is the lack of focus on all the difference and keeping hold of their best players. Even in the latter Wenger years, you saw Alexis Sanchez as an example go. It didn't work out. It was my club, but still in their pomp leaving. And I feel that this Arsenal team tying down all of its best players, the Salibas, the Gabriels, the Sakas wanting to stay, is maybe the biggest sign that they're on the edge of something great. They are on the edge of something maybe even beyond what Wenger achieved. And I mean a Champions League title, perhaps, back-to-back league titles, perhaps. And by the way, winning back-to-back league titles for me is better than going invincible. It's better than 100 points. It's that retaining of a trophy. City got 100 points with the Centurions, but retaining it the following year was a better achievement. The treble, by the way, was an even bigger achievement. And I think there was certainly doing a four-peat. Much better than, listen, I'll take a four-peat over, I don't even know, what is the maximum amount of points you can get in the league if you won every game? 38 times 3. I would take a quad, a treble, you know, if someone guaranteed me back-to-back Premier Leagues, but we're going to win them with 69 points each, I would take that over a one season 114 points. I'm just trying to point that out to you. And that's not a dig. All those achievements are very good. But I'm just talking about the multiple trophies. I don't think people realise how hard it is to retain a Premier League title. It's why Pep and Sir Alex and Jose's teams are the greatest in Premier League history, in my personal and humble opinion. And I think Arsenal, though, are on the edge of this. And I know straight away, but we've done doubles. Doubles are amazing, so they go into that as well. But, of course, the Pep and Fergie teams did the doubles, and they did trebles as well, right? That's why I have them there. But all that aside, we're not going to get into that tit for tat. This is amazing news for Arsenal. And you look, it's coming from multiple sources now. Fabrizio Romano is speaking on it, that Arsenal are progressing well in talks with Bukayo Saka and his camp. Salary details being discussed, but all parties involved aligned and convinced they will move forward together. Talks have already been underway before the summer window, proceeding well. You will know as well as I do that if this was 10 years ago, 8 years ago, Saka's probably already a City player, maybe a Liverpool player. You will know Odegaard would have been gone by now. Both Saliba and Gabriel would have been picked off. And then you're probably now looking at Timber would be the next person in line. You'll probably find that Declan Rice wouldn't have even joined 8 or 9 years ago. Somebody else would have pipped them. And one of the biggest things Arsenal have changed, I used to sit down with my Gooner friends. One of my best friends, we lived in the same house for many years. I used to always have this argument with him about net spend because he would talk about how proud he was that they nearly won the league, or we won the league and then didn't retain it. But look, our wage bill's here and net spend is there. And I would say, listen, man, I kind of get it. But what if you just spent that little bit more? I can tell you as a Man United fan who won those trophies that you missed out on, it doesn't bother me 1 ounce that our wage bill was higher than yours. It doesn't bother me 1 ounce that our net spend wasn't as good as yours. We won the trophy. And part of me wants Arsenal fans to feel this because I want to have that conversation. I want to have that with my friends that are Arsenal fans. No disrespect to you guys. I love my community. But with some of my best friends who I've known my whole life, how does it feel now? Do you care that you've dropped X amount on your squad? Do you care you broke certain records? Do you care that you've got players earning some of the biggest wages in the world now, and you're not one of the lowest paying big clubs, you're one of the highest paying big clubs? Does it make that trophy feel less significant, less fun, less enjoyable? I know the answer is going to be no. It waited the better part of 20 years to prove this point to some of my friends. And I've got a feeling it's on the way very soon. And the renewal of these contracts is massive. Is massive. And listen, I know some gooners will be frustrated by what I've said. And you've had some brilliant teams in the Premier League. And you've done 2 doubles, which I think is a fantastic achievement. The Invincibles were an incredible team. But I'm just getting this gut feeling that something even bigger could be on the horizon. And it's the re-signing of these star players. Something's different. And a lot of people that hate Arteta, a lot of people that hate Arsenal, you've seen the mainstream media, they'll never be fair, they'll never be honest. They just don't want to talk about this stuff. And I'm staggered as to why. That being said, the mainstream media still says that net spend is real. Do you know what I mean? They still talk about war chests. They've been exposed all week for their lies about set pieces compared to what they said 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So am I really surprised? Probably not. But as ever, look, I want to thank you all very, very much for tuning in. Massive news for Arsenal Football Club. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. I'll see you soon. Peace.